Hello and welcome to Life Beyond the Numbers, the podcast for people who are curious about how to have a more fulfilling work life. We live in a world largely driven by numbers, logic and reason. But how we feel at work and about our work impacts us, our organisations and society. There is a relationship between the numbers of our organisations and the life beyond the numbers. I'm Susan Michelon, your host. I've lived and worked in many countries. I've met people who love what they do and people who don't, people who bring their full selves to work and people who won't. But one thing that I've learned that is common to us all is that we are all unique and have unique experiences. And it's helpful to know that there are others who think like we do, or have had struggles too, or have gone where we want to go, or can show us things we didn't know. So join me and my guests as we place a lens on the human side of work life by sharing insights, stories and strategies to inspire you to let your uniqueness shine through. Hello and welcome to episode 160 of Life Beyond the Numbers. This episode is going out on the last Saturday of January 2024. It's the first solo episode of 2024 and it's hard to believe it is the end of January. We almost have a month of the year behind us. I don't know where you're listening in the world, but here in Oxford we've had quite a month. We thought early in the month we might get flooded here in our street. I could see from my window the water levels rising. Luckily we didn't, but there was a lot of flooding in this area. Then the next week it was so cold, like really cold, hard to keep the house warm, almost easier to go outside and have a brisk walk. And what was interesting was a lot of the floodwaters around that hadn't gone down completely froze. And in fact, even the Thames River, because you can walk along the Thames path here. We went for a walk last Saturday and there was all of this debris sitting on top of the water. And it was people, I guess, chucking things in to see if it would break through the ice. And it was kind of funny to see these big pieces of wood, because people got very creative with what they were throwing in there, just sitting on top of the water because it was frozen. And I can't imagine how cold it must have been to freeze a volume of water like that. January, start of a new year. It's also the time, I guess, some people think about what I'm going to do this year or take up new things or have resolutions. I dropped resolutions many years ago. I just didn't ever really see the point in them. It usually faded before long. Now, well, it's all about habits, I think, and setting habits and setting out what it is you really want to do. Taking on too many probably doesn't work either. And something I've been doing this January, which I've really enjoyed, has been the 30-day yoga journey, Flow with Yoga with Adrienne. Yoga with Adrienne, it's on YouTube. She sets a challenge. You get an email into your inbox every day. Every day has a name. Day 24 was Create. And they have various names like Relax, Notice, Stability, Curious, Open, Action, Ease, Center, all these lovely names. And it's a really nice way to spend 20 minutes in the day, finding the 20 minutes, creating that space to have 20 minutes and just go and hang out in the yoga mat. And one of the things I've noticed actually is it seems to really be benefiting CrossFit, because I guess that core stability that you build up doing yoga regularly actually makes a difference. And it seems very gentle, and yet I can feel my strength increasing. I've done this for a couple of years now. I haven't always finished. This year I'm determined to go on beyond January and perhaps revisit previous year's 30-day challenges or something like that. I have to find a way of keeping it going because it's working and I'm enjoying it. I have to create the environment that I can bring it into being. And that's what I thought about talking about today a little bit, was being creative or to create something or creativity. I think it's something that comes up over and over again on our podcast episodes. And I was just looking before I started recording at the World Economic Forum top 10 skills of 2023. They're not out for 2024 yet. But number 1 is analytical thinking. Number 2, creative thinking. 3, resilience, flexibility and agility. 4, motivation and self-awareness. 5, curiosity and lifelong learning. I'm just going to do the first 5 out of the 10. But so what's interesting to me is creative thinking is the second top skill of 2023. And I can remember in performance reviews and that form that we would fill out at work, there was always a section on creative thinking. And many of the people that reported to me really struggled to complete that part. And it's interesting, isn't it, that word creativity, what we attach to the word. We give the word a meaning that sometimes can become a story that's actually inhibitive for us. So what I like to do sometimes with words is go back to the source and look the word up and see what it actually means. And to create means to bring something into existence. Simple. Is it? Well, it actually is. Because just as I'm speaking now, I'm creating. This podcast recording is created by me. It didn't exist before I hit the record button, and you're listening to it somewhere in the world now. It's been created. It's pretty simple. Now you might go, oh well, it's fine for you. You've got a podcast, you're creating podcast episodes. But actually, let's strip it back a little bit more. To be creative means to produce or use original and unusual ideas. So, okay, that sounds a bit more, can I do that? Unusual ideas? Because that's where my focus went, unusual ideas. Whoa, how do I do that? But actually, it says producing or using. And original simply means produced by you. So the definition from the dictionary of creative, producing or using original and unusual ideas, is not an original idea or thought of mine. I'm copying somebody else. I'm telling you what somebody else said. But other than that, mostly what I'm saying here is my own original words, thoughts, ideas. And original just means produced by me and not a copy. That's it. Or produced by you and not a copy. So when you think about that, actually everything we do during the day pretty much is a creation. Every conversation we have is co-created with other people. When you start speaking, you never know what you're actually going to say. So you create that conversation and you co-create it with somebody else. Every meeting we attend, what we say in those meetings is created by us. on the spot. Now, some people do echo the words of others, copy them, give them their own spin. Is that a creation? I guess it is, because we're producing or are using original and unusual ideas. What I'm trying to say is that actually to create is maybe not that special because it's something that we do all the time. And I'm not talking about creating wonderful works of art here or what we imagine, I think, when we think about the creatives, theatre productions and so on. But actually, just to create something is simply to bring it into being. Something that wasn't here this morning that is here now. Perhaps part of the thing about creation and thinking about creation is because we create all day long, we're oblivious to the fact that we're creating. And most of the time, it's not there. It's gone in an instant. A podcast stays around. So that creation is there for posterity. Anyone can listen to this at any time. A conversation, however, it's over unless you record it. You're probably not going to remember what you created during that conversation. An email you write is a creation. If you make a cuppa, it's a creation. You had to boil the water, you had to put in the coffee or the tea, and you combine the two of them together. They didn't exist before you made them into something. If you make dinner or lunch or breakfast, you create that. I know I've heard people or somebody talk about how creativity or creation is our birthright and that everybody is creative. And it wasn't until I was listening to Michael Neill talk about creation. If you don't know Michael Neill, he's worth looking up. He talks about creating the impossible and working from the inside out. And I suppose he took the, what's the word I'm looking for? Because he brought it back down to earth. He brought creation back down into the everyday, into something that possibly many of us take for granted. So we don't have to set out to create a masterpiece or create an amazing work of art or create poetry. But every day we create throughout our days. And I think that can give us a level of confidence about our creative thinking ability. Because I know that people struggle with that. They think they're not creative. They think they don't have original ideas. Maybe we don't have unusual ideas very often. Maybe we do. But if you take away the pressure to be original and just realize you are original because they're your thoughts and your ideas. And sure, you may have read them in a book or heard people talking about them, but the way you're delivering them, just like I'm doing now, is original. And that's really important. We're all creative thinkers. We all have the ability, the skill to think creatively. And sometimes we might have to explain to people that thinking creatively just means the way I think. My ideas are enough. They're original, they're creative. Let me have the space to voice them, the time to think about them. Listen. And I think because we go into meetings often with a rush to get to the outcome. We have to figure out, we're going to go into this meeting, we're going to figure out how to do X by the end of this meeting, full stop. So we put pressure on ourselves and we limit our thinking instead of opening it up. How might we do X? How might we do Y? And encourage ideas and thinking from everyone in the room, because all of us have this ability. We are all creative thinkers. We all have an imagination. We can all bring something into the world, and we do it every day. So every single conversation you have is created and co-created with the others that are with you. And that, I think there's something very powerful about that and very grounding about that. And that's it. It's creativity. Bring it back down to earth. Strip it back and think about how you are creative. A few years ago, during lockdown, a bunch of us got together, a couple of us, and we would get together on a Friday morning on Instagram, and we called it Friday Funnies, and there were 4 of us. And we had all been members of Toastmaster clubs and had done impromptu speaking. And impromptu speaking, generally what happens is you get a question and you get between 1.5 and 2 minutes to come up with an answer to that question, to create a little speech. And it always felt very daunting to do that. How am I going to just answer this question and make a speech out of it? And I think the best advice I ever got about that was somebody in a Toastmasters club saying, always go with the first thing that comes to mind. Because your mind has your back, effectively. It's not going to let you down. It's going to allow you that spontaneity. It's going to say, right, this is what you need to go with. And of course, oftentimes what happens, first thought that comes into your head, you think to yourself, I'm not going to talk about that. How can I talk about that? And you stop yourself. And of course, once we stop ourselves, then the scramble happens to find something else to talk about that people want to listen to. But actually, probably one of the most engaging things is to talk about what you really want to talk about. And you can have a lot of fun and you can practice, and it's a safe environment to do it. And for us, the Friday Funnies was exactly that. We just have a bit of fun. We try and bring a bit of laughter and fun and joy into a Friday morning for ourselves and for anyone that might want to listen. And we stopped. I guess when we came out of lockdown, who knows, it's been a long time. And late last year, we started talking about starting up again. And on Friday, the 26th, we had our first Friday Funnies of 2024. And we co-created together. We brought into existence something that didn't exist earlier that morning. And the theme of the day was the joy of small things. So what I've done is I've taken an excerpt out of that. One of the things that I created just like that, and I'm going to play it now. The sound won't be as good as the rest of this recording because I've held my phone with Instagram up to the computer here in front of me and let it play. But basically, all I want to show is that we can just bring something into the world just like that. And most of the time, we don't realise it.
What would you say is a small piece of joy that you keep going back to?
Ooh, well, the sea is the first thing that comes to mind for me, because the sea brings me so much joy. And I can't wait to get back to the sea. It's like when I leave the sea, I miss it from the minute I leave. And once I get back home, I kind of relax into myself. Home where I grew up, where my parents live now, I still call it home, because that's where the sea is as well. And if I go to a new city and there's sea,
there, the first thing I'll do is make my way to the sea. And if I get in late at night, I'll probably go for a run in the morning and see the place as well as get to the sea. If it's in the evening, it'll just be a stroll by the sea. But the sea just draws me in and brings me so much joy. And I live in Oxford, which is so far from any sea. However, in my office, I have 3 photos over my desk or behind my desk of the sea. 2 of them are from the beach at home, one on a crazy wild day with the water going everywhere in the sea, just looking rough and amazing. One on a beautifully calm day when the sea is just like glass. And then the third one is from a holiday in Jersey where we went for this walk and turned a corner and saw this amazing lighthouse where the sea cuts it off. So you can't access it. You can access it only when the tide is out. And it's this beautiful photo of the tide kind of almost engulfing this path across to the lighthouse. And that is how I keep the sea with me.
And that was exactly 2 minutes. So I was so proud of myself. The first Friday Funnies answer I gave earlier in the same session was, ugh. But I still gave an answer. But already I could find my flow. And because I got to talk about something that I really am, brings me joy, it just came out. So I guess 2024, maybe it's not the year of creativity for you. Maybe you never thought about creative or creating. Maybe you kind of go, oh, no, that's not for me. I am not a creative person. I don't know how to create anything. I can't think creatively. I'm not a creative thinker. Or maybe you're going, I'd like to be a bit more creative. I'd like to find that creative spark inside of me. Do it. Think about all the ways you're already doing it every day. Just think about what you create. From the minute you get up, whether you make a cuppa, your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, you make brown bread like I did during the week and realised this is a creation. Every conversation you have, even if it's with a stranger on public transport, it's a creation. You're bringing something into being that wasn't earlier that day, and it's original because it comes from you. And if you feel called, share your creation with the world. There's something beautiful about that, as I think we crave hearing creations. We want to know what other people are thinking. We want to know who we connect with. And we do that. We connect with people because we like the way they think. We like what they have to say. We understand their stories, where they've come from. And that's what this is about, isn't it? Life is a story. Every day is a story. And as the storytelling expert Aengus Fletcher says, I heard him say this on a podcast conversation once, every day is an opportunity to tell another story or a new story. So it's not even about being creative, is it? It's about being human and using your skills. And one of your skills is creative thinking or creative being, because you spend your day creating. So go forth, create every day, and the next solo episode will be at the end of February, all going well. Thanks for listening. Until next time, ciao. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the paths we traversed on today's episode. If something rang through for you, be sure to let me know. Or maybe you can share this with someone in your life who would benefit from listening too. And if you enjoy helping others, I'd be so grateful if you would leave a review. so that people who might also be curious about their own life beyond the numbers can discover this podcast too.